Hello and welcome to another episode from the Water's Edge, and you catch up with us today taking the ultimate trip back down memory lane, and that is fishing places exactly where we're sitting now. Little tiny streams and dikes and maybe even a weir pool later. The places we used to visit perhaps 20 odd years ago after school. We used to jump on the bikes and, oh there we go, got one. See if we could fish and find somewhere where we could go pretty close to home. You know, only used to bike there as little youngsters. Look at that, a mega little roach. It's probably been 20 odd years, like I said, since I've fished here. I didn't even know if they were still around, if I'm honest. And yeah, today is more about not really caring about what size, even what we catch, you know, just the fact that we've caught something there is a bonus. But it's just about coming out and reliving the past, stuff that we don't really do now too often, do we? Everyone's a bit too busy, hustle and bustle, and I really don't particularly care what I catch today. If I catch anything, I'll be happy with it. So apologies for the road and the noise. It probably isn't the best place for filming, but back then obviously we never had the cameras or mics. We didn't particularly worry about it. We thought we were ultimate pioneers when we were younger, trying to find little places like this. You wouldn't even really think that there was fish in here. It's a tiny little dike off the main river that's just a few hundred yards in front of me, and actually the whole bit up to this bend where we are is really shallow, and you can see the bottom. You really wouldn't expect there to be any fish in there at all. But I'm going to keep introducing a little bit of bait, just trickle it through. It's really steady flow here, and hopefully there may be a few fish around this area that we can entice up, and there we go, there's another one, and get a few little fish going. What's this? This is tiny. Look at that, a micro dace. I'll tell you, if a lot of these fish get bigger, a lot of these roach and gudgeon especially and dace, people would target them more often. But it's not always about how big they are, it's about where you catch them from and what they mean to you. So I'm going to probably spend, I don't know, perhaps an hour here, see if there's still these fish about, if there's anything bigger. There was the odd occasion of a bigger chub if we were ever mega lucky, but that wasn't very often. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to fish here for about an hour, and then like I said earlier, we've got places we want to go. We've got other spots we want to visit, maybe a little weir pool, which might be a chance of a trout or something a little bigger, and a couple of other, you know, little tiny places like this that either me or Chris, between us, we used to fish when we were a lot younger and had no care in the world. So we'll carry on and give it a little time here. There we go. Another fish, just putting that little sort of maggot trail down. I'm getting the odd little bite, a nice dace. I love dace, I've got a real soft spot for them. And actually, to be fair, I have all sorts of smaller fish. I think if they grew bigger, then people would fish for them a lot more. But certainly this style of fishing, I believe it's a forgotten style. I don't know if it's just because I don't do it anymore and youngsters still are out here doing it, but I think a lot of videos now and a lot of social media is all based around commercials, and the biggest fish you can catch is what you've got to do. But without little things like this, I don't think I would have been into fishing, you know. Without my family members taking me to tiny little places like this, I really don't think I'd ever started, and I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now, you know. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing as a job, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing as a hobby. And it just amazes me what gets a little place like this. Just under this bridge to my left here, I've just seen a little pike. He's probably 3 or 4 pound maybe, and he's probably not doing my fishing here any good. Oh, that's a good bite. Probably scaring off the dace and the roach and that, but certainly surprising what gets into little places like this. I mean, not particularly this river, but time of the year they would get in here. Salt tides from other rivers, they'd get in places like this. And the more you learn about fishing, you sort of understand why they're here. But you know, as a youngster, I wouldn't have really worried about that or cared about that. I would have just been interested in, there's another one, in catching them. What have we got here? a roach. So we're starting to get a little bit of a mixture now as well. It'd be nice to get a real surprise. Like, the bigger fish do get in here, you know, they hide out of the way, and if I was a fish, I don't think I'd be sitting in that fast flow in the river. I'd be tucked away here. I'd normally say out of the way of predators because they're there, but that pike's probably put a bad rule on that one. But yeah, they're just in here enjoying themselves, and makes it all more interesting for us trying to catch them. Well, it seems that pretty much all that I can catch is either a little roach or a micro dace like that, and I'm not complaining. I pretty much knew that was what it was going to be, but I think it's time now. I've had my fun here. I've sat here and thought about times we used to have when it was freezing cold, even snow, and we used to come, and we were crazy really, weren't we, when we were younger? But I think it's time we I don't know, 1 or 2 more trots through, and I'm gonna get in the car and go to somewhere else, maybe catch a bigger fish, but if not, just fish another area that we used to fish when we were youngsters. Ah, there we go. Loads of these now. I think this is the last one. It's actually pretty cold, so I'm a little bit of a wimp nowadays. Heaters are going on, and we'll get on to the next spot. But there we go. Spot number 1, loads and loads. A little dace and a little roach. So we're back in the car. We're just going to head off to the next spot. That was good fun there, but the fish was so much smaller than I remember. But in fairness, you know, a lot can change in 20 years. But the next spot's only 2 or 3 minutes drive, so more importantly, I'm going to get the heaters on because it's absolutely freezing. Warm up a bit, and we'll get to the next spot. So we're at the second spot, and literally just second run through, after throwing a handful of maggots in, we've got a fish. So this is a slightly different spot, but already I'm glad I moved. Check that out. That's a big dace, and the fish are hopefully going to be a lot bigger here. Despite visiting a few different spots and old haunts we'd fished when we were younger, we didn't have much luck. So for the last hour or so of daylight, we dropped into one of our favourite spots on the river that had been kind to us in the past. Right, so we've came back to probably my favourite childhood memory spot. We tried a couple of others that unfortunately have just changed so much. We managed one dace in a couple of other spots that we used to catch quite a few fish from when we were younger. But this one here is a Lenway bridge stretch, and actually the river is literally just behind me. But there's a little offshoot just down here under this bridge. It narrows down to almost nothing. And I actually remember I caught my first ever river fish or stream fish, and it was a minnow in this where there used to be loads of minnows under this bridge. So you probably think I'm crazy, but I really want to catch a minnow, or just see if there's anything still in this little bit here. Then if there is, hopefully we'll catch them. But I'm only going to give it, I don't know, 10-15 minutes in this little bit here, because we've always liked the river behind us. We've done a few videos there, and although it's bigger than a little stream, it does hold some chub that we've caught before. So I mean, that would be a great way to round it off and see if we could, oh, a little bite straight away, to see if we could finish on something slightly bigger. And actually, talking about getting into fishing, I think unfortunately he's no longer with. John Wilson used to do a lot of fishing just in this river behind us, and yeah, if he wasn't an inspiration to get into fishing for me, then no one was. So it'd be nice to go back to doing that as well, something I haven't done for a long while. But I really just want to catch a minnow here. That's what I want to catch, but I don't know if they're still here, but you can only try. Well, I don't think it's a minnow. If it is, it could be a British record. But what is it? Look at that. It's a dace, and a pretty big one, to be fair. That I didn't expect to be in a tiny little thing like that. And like I said earlier, there's always an amazement in what you can catch in absolutely minuscule little bits of waterway. That is a result. There we go, another fish. Took a little while, a few trots through. I don't think there's as many as there used to be, and it certainly isn't the minnow I intended, but another nice dace. You think literally like 2 metres behind me is the main river. You'd think they'd be in there, but we've had a few trots in there in the past, and I might even have a go in a minute, but they're just not in that main river. They love this little off-cut of the dike from the side stream. Random. But we're slipping back, and I'm going to have, I don't know, I'm going to have 10 or 15 more minutes in here, see if I can't get myself a little tiny minnow or something like that. It's probably sounds a stupid statement, but I bet now if you done a survey on new anglers into the sport, there'd be more people who'd caught a 30-pound carp than there would be a minnow from a little stream. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I love catching big carp myself, but some of my best fishing memories are little things like this with your mates, catching tiny little fish, put them in a jar and a little mesh net and letting them go at the end of the day. That was mega, that was. But we haven't had anything minutely that small, but it's been good fun still. So a few more goes. If not, we'll have a little look on the main river and see if we can't finish with something a bit better. Oh, there we go. Oh, what's this? It's the biggest one yet. Another dace. There you go. They're nice sized dace as well, actually. But we'll get them unhooked and we'll get him slipped back. Well, I'm so glad we came back to this tiny little off stream from years and years ago, because the dace fishing has been mega. Literally, like almost every cast I'm getting one, and it's random because they're all, that was a roach that time, talk about dace, but they're all literally in the same little pocket in a little hole. If my float doesn't go under in, like, I don't know, a sort of 2 foot, a foot circle, then I don't really get a bite. But apart from that, it has been really good. And I think actually I've been a little bit carried away, to be honest, because it's getting a little bit dark, and I was hopeful that just in the main river behind us we could finish with a chub or something like that, something a bit bigger. But I think the childhood memories have come back so much that I've just given up on that, and I've kept fishing. One last cast has turned into 10, 15, 20 last casts, and it has been really, really good. But it's just gone past that area now, so if I reel it back and go through again, hopefully this time we might manage one. But there we go, literally right in that same little zone. They must just all sit there in a queue waiting for it. And that one has to be my last cast. I can't keep saying one more go. And a nice dace to finish on. So what a day, what a trip down memory lane. Certainly something that I should be doing more of, and I regret leaving it all those years for having another go. But I think you get caught up in the race of fishing for competitions and catching the biggest fish, and sometimes you forget that you can have just as much fun catching the small ones. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I have really thoroughly enjoyed it today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one.